I was married to He Shuwen for 30 years, and I always believed our marriage was a happy and fulfilling one. I got along harmoniously with my in-laws, never once having a quarrel. Our daughter, though adopted, was sensible and filial. That was until He Shuwen's life was abruptly taken in a car accident. While sorting through his belongings, I discovered the diary he had kept locked in his desk drawer. Its pages were densely filled with his declarations of love for his widowed sister-in-law. And the daughter we had adopted turned out to be his child with that woman. The lawyer read out the will he had prepared long ago. Only then did I discover he had long since, behind my back, transferred all his assets, leaving me with nothing but a mountain of debt. In a fit of rage, I suffered a stroke and collapsed to the floor. My daughter found me, yet she remained calmly seated in her chair, silently watching me writhe in agony on the ground. A full half-hour passed before she finally, and without any urgency, dialed for an ambulance. Due to the delayed medical response, I was left with severe, permanent disabilities and am now bedridden. For the next 3 years, I endured the malicious torment of my caretaker, struggling through each day until I was ultimately starved to death. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back in the 5th year of my marriage to He Shuwen. It was also the year he planned to adopt a child. An intense, gnawing hunger clawed at my very core. My ears were ringing. I struggled to open my eyes, and it took me a long moment to make out my surroundings. It was a simple hospital room. An old-fashioned 4-stand by the bed held 2 bags of saline solution, the liquid dripping slowly down a thin tube and into the back of my hand. A faded poster about preventing spring infectious diseases was stuck to the yellowing wall. The year in the bottom right corner is 1993. While I was still reeling in shock, a deep male voice sounded in my ear. "You're awake. Are you feeling any discomfort?" I turned my head towards the voice and saw the young, handsome He Shuwen sitting by the hospital bed, looking at me with deep concern. Yet deep in his eyes, there was a flicker of barely perceptible disgust. What happened to me? Only when I spoke did I realize how hoarse and ragged my voice sounded. He Shuwen's brow furrowed tightly, his voice tinged with complaint. "It's because you insisted on queuing up for fried dough sticks this morning and got knocked out by a motorcycle. We were supposed to go to the orphanage to finalize the adoption paperwork. Look at the mess you've caused." The memories came flooding back. I had actually gone back to the very day we adopted He Shin. In my previous life, in the 4th year of our marriage, He Shuwen told me he had been diagnosed with azoospermia. He even showed me a report. I took it at face value. Later, we adopted a 3-month-old abandoned baby from the orphanage. We named her He Shin. I wish her a life filled with warmth and happiness, but I could never have imagined that the daughter I've cherished for over 20 years is actually the child of He Shuwen and his widowed sister-in-law, Liu Qingqing. I can't comprehend how the world can be so absurd. He Shuwen and I have known each other since childhood. You could say we were childhood sweethearts. Later, his father sent a matchmaker to propose, finalizing the marriage between him and me. After marriage, we led a simple and happy life. Although we didn't have children of our own, our adopted daughter was sweet and sensible. I also got along very well with my in-laws, and there was never any conflict between us. When Hashin was 7 months old, she was diagnosed with complex congenital heart disease due to breathing difficulties and recurrent respiratory infections. To pay for her medical treatment, we scrambled to raise money from everywhere and ended up nearly 100,000 in debt. But I never complained. Since I adopted her, she has been my own child. At our poorest, to buy the anticoagulant medication Hashin needed after her stent placement, I secretly went to the blood bank to sell my blood. It wasn't until after the turn of the millennium that our lives gradually began to improve. There was a time when I naively believed He Shuwen was the love of my life, the one who would weather every storm by my side. But then he died. It wasn't until I read his diary that I discovered the truth. While I was at the blood bank, selling my blood to scrape together money for medicine, He Shuwen was using 7,000 yuan he'd stashed away to buy Liu Qingqing a high-quality jade bracelet. He wrote in his diary, "Xu Jiwei has always been resilient. She'll find a way to get through this current hardship, and if all else fails, she still has her brother and her parents. She can just swallow her pride and go ask her family for help." I turned the pages of the diary, one by one. I saw them travel across the magnificent landscapes of our homeland. I saw them secretly take Shin to amusement parks. I saw my husband toiling to build his career, buying properties and luxury cars for Liu Qingqing. I saw them prearrange a shared burial plot. I laughed until tears streamed down my face, but what does any of it matter now, after Shu Wen was laid to rest? The lawyer read his will to me and Shin. It was only then I learned that, aside from leaving me with nearly 10 million in debt and 2 long abandoned, rammed-earth houses in his rural hometown, he had already transferred virtually all his other assets away. Overwhelmed with rage, I suffered a stroke and collapsed to the ground, yet Shinfa just stood there silently, watching me as if I were an insect beneath his feet. She didn't call for an ambulance until well after the critical window for treatment had passed. The delayed medical response left me with severe, permanent disabilities, bedridden and completely dependent on others for all my needs. For the next 3 years, I endured cruel mistreatment from my caretaker, ultimately dying from starvation. Throughout all those years, Shin never once came to see me. After all that ingratitude, you think I'd take you in again? Hatred swelled in my chest, my fingernails digging deep into my palms. I looked up at Shu Wen again to find him frowning as he studied me. Seeing my prolonged silence, he finally spoke. His tone was gentle, yet carried an undeniable force. Once you finish these 2-4 drips, I'll get you discharged. The orphanage is waiting for us to go over and complete the paperwork. My face expressionless, I said coldly, if you want to go through with the adoption, do it yourself, I won't be joining you. Shu's voice suddenly rose sharply. The adoption process requires both spouses to be present. What good would it do if I go alone? I rolled my eyes and replied with disgust, that's your problem. What does it have to do with me? He probably didn't expect me to answer like that. Shu Wen's expression went blank for a moment. Just then, the door to the hospital room swung open. A stylish woman in a beige trench coat walked in, holding a bouquet of flowers. This was Shu Wen's widowed sister-in-law, Liu Qingqing. She had delicate features, having likely given birth not long ago. Her figure was full and voluptuous, exuding an indescribable charm, yet a faint trace of sorrow lingered on her face. Shu Wen's elder brother had passed away from liver cancer 3 years prior, leaving her a widow. Her in-laws were not conservative people. After their eldest son passed away, her in-laws suggested to Liu Qingqing that if she met a suitable person, she could remarry. They even prepared a dowry for her, but she fell to her knees before them in tears, declaring that for the rest of her life, she was a member of the He family in life and a ghost of the He family in death, and she would never marry another. Just like my in-laws, I was deeply moved by her enduring love for her late husband. In our daily lives, I made sure to look after her, always including her when it came to food and other necessities. For a period of time, Liu Qingqing took a long leave of absence from the theater troupe, nearly half a year, claiming she had fractured her shin. Shu Wen took me to the hospital to visit her. She really did have a cast on her leg at the time, like a fool. I even gave her $2,000 so she could rest and recover without worry. After being discharged, she said she was going back to her parents' home to recuperate. And then she was out of sight for over half a year. I suppose she went into hiding to have the baby. Looking back on my past life now, my foolishness is practically museum-worthy. Shu Wen saw Liu Qingqing and stood up excitedly. Sis, what brings you here? The woman forced a faint smile at the corner of her mouth. I heard Ji Wei was in a car accident, so I rushed over during the troops' lunch break to check on her. Is everything all right? Before I could even answer, while dutifully placing a stool behind Liu Qingqing, Shu Wen replied, she's fine. The doctor said it's a mild concussion and she just needs to be monitored for a while. After sitting down, Liu Qingqing placed the bouquet of flowers on the nightstand. Then, she turned to me and chided softly, Ji Wei, how could you be so careless? You knew we were supposed to go adopt a child today, yet you insisted on going out to buy breakfast. Now you're lying in the hospital. What are we going to do about the adoption? Mom and Dad are still at home, waiting with bated breath. Well, this is just great. They're going to be so disappointed. She let out a soft, melancholic sigh, her eyes filled with nothing but blame and resentment. He Shuwen chimed in at the opportune moment. Jiwei, look, the adoption paperwork is quite straightforward. How about we go take care of that this afternoon? If you start feeling unwell, I can bring you right back here. I stared at this shameless pair of scoundrels before me and let out a cold, derisive laugh. But for now, I wasn't ready to expose them. As the saying goes, catch a thief with the stolen goods, catch adulterers in the act. I wouldn't act recklessly, in my past life. Out of consideration for my in-laws who had lost their son in their old age, I had always longed for the child we were to adopt to finally come home. I did indeed check out of the hospital that same day and went to the welfare center to complete the adoption paperwork for He-shin. He-shin had only been home for a few months when she was diagnosed with complex congenital heart disease. The surgery alone would cost 70 or 80,000 yuan. That didn't even include all the other miscellaneous expenses. Back in 1993, He-shuen's and my combined salaries barely topped 1,000 yuan a month to pay for her treatment. I used up all my dowry and savings, and I nearly drained my parents' retirement nest egg as well. I borrowed from every relative and friend I could, but it still wasn't nearly enough. Back then, He-shuen and I lived in the company's staff housing. In the end, we had to put my parents' house up as collateral at the bank just to secure a loan of 50,000 yuan. After the surgery, He-shin was incredibly frail and couldn't be left alone for a moment. I had to quit my job to stay home and care for her full time. It wasn't until she started kindergarten that her health began to improve. After He-shin started school, with my parents' help, I opened a restaurant. I worked from dawn till dusk, all to earn a little extra money to pay off our debts. But while I was going through all this hardship for He-shin, what was her birth mother, Liu Qingqing, doing? She lived a glamorous life as an actress in a theater troupe. After work, she'd go dancing at the Lakeview Square. On weekends, she'd enjoy Western food and coffee with friends, and travel around during holidays. She lived with a bold, unapologetic freedom, genuine and carefree, never worrying about making ends meet. Her life was a dream utterly beyond my reach. The thought made my blood boil with rage. He-shuwen reached out to feel my forehead and asked gently, "You've gone so pale all of a sudden. Are you feeling unwell? Should I call a doctor for you?" Seizing the opportunity, I replied through gritted teeth, "I'm terribly dizzy, the whole room is spinning, and I keep feeling nauseous. I can't even get up." He-shuwen hesitated. Then, "Should I go and call a doctor for you now?" I feigned pain and closed my eyes. A little over 10 minutes later, the doctor repeatedly stressed that I was not to be discharged yet and must remain under observation at the hospital, or they would not be held responsible if any problems arose. Liu Qingqing stared blankly in the direction the doctor had left, her eyes gradually welling up with tears. She stumbled out of the hospital room. He-shuwen glanced at me, then looked in the direction the woman had gone, and finally, he went after her. I pulled out the 4-needle from my hand and quietly followed. From the stairwell came the sound of Liu Qingqing's muffled sobs and a man's tender, comforting words. "Don't cry, it breaks my heart to see you like this, I promise you. I'll bring our daughter home in 2 days at the latest." The woman sobbed even harder. "But you promised me we'd bring Shinshin home today. She's already in poor health. She even had a bit of a cough when we left her at the orphanage gate the day before yesterday. What if she gets seriously ill?" He-shuwen held the woman in his arms. "My heart aches too, knowing our daughter is all alone in the orphanage. But what choice do we have right now? We can't finalize the adoption paperwork without her being present. It's all that bitch Xu Jiwei's fault. Of all days for her to get into a car accident, it had to be today. Please, stop crying. Let me take you home first. I'll go check on our daughter at the orphanage later." I watched their figures recede into the distance, stamping my foot in frustration. I'm just kicking myself for not having a phone to record that scene. That night, He-shuwen did not come to the hospital to stay with me. Early the next morning, after signing the voluntary discharge consent form, I went straight to complete the discharge procedures. Anyway, based on my memories from my past life, there's really nothing wrong with my body. The moment I stepped into the residential compound, I saw a few gossiping women pointing at me and starting to whisper among themselves. Judging by their expressions and glances, they were probably making fun of me again for not being able to have children. I walked right over to them. I smiled openly and said, well, having a little chat, aunties, talking about my infertility, are we? A look of embarrassment crossed their faces. They immediately waved their hands in denial. No. You must have misheard, I explained with a smile. Actually, it's not that I can't have children. He Shu Wen has azoospermia. It's not my fault. The woman was stunned for a moment. Then blurted out, but I heard from Xiao He that you're infertile, that you were born that way. In the old days, what respectable family would dare marry a woman with your condition? Another person chimed in. That's right. I heard young master he passed away so young, without leaving any children. And since you can't have any either, well, I suppose the He family line ends with you. I smiled, narrowing my eyes. My initial thought was simply to clarify who exactly was the infertile one. But since their words were so cutting, I saw no reason to spare their feelings. I turned to the first woman who spoke and asked, Auntie Lee, have you completely broken things off with that man on the side? Does Uncle Lee still hit you over it? The woman's head snapped up, her eyes wide with disbelief. I pretended not to notice and addressed the woman in the middle. Auntie Ju, I heard Lingling got pregnant at just 19 and wanted to marry her boyfriend, but his wife wouldn't agree to it. Is that true? The smile on her lips slowly faded. I believe in treating everyone equally, so I'll just say this. By the way, Auntie Wang, you really should stop letting Uncle Wang steal steel from the factory to sell. If he gets caught, he'll be looking at serious jail time. And your youngest son, tell him to stop climbing through windows in the middle of the night to steal the ladies' underwear. A silence fell over the room, so profound you could have heard a pin drop. Just as they were about to explode, I tossed out a casual remark. Oh, I heard all this from He Shu Wen. He loves gossiping about you all in his spare time. You might want to be careful what you tell him from now on. With that, I turned and walked away. A woman's hysterical shrieking erupted from behind me. That evening, He Shu Wen had just gotten home from work when he started bellowing, Shu Jiwei, get your ass out here. I stumbled out of the bedroom, the moment I saw the man's face. I let out a snort of laughter. The left side of his face was badly swollen, with dried blood at the corner of his mouth. Several scratch marks ran down his right cheek, and his hair stood up in a wild, disheveled mess. He looked utterly wretched. He yelled at me, what on earth did you say to the Jew family? The moment I stepped into the compound, the whole lot of them jumped me. They said I should keep your mouth shut. Oh, this hurts like hell. He clutched his swollen cheek. Grimacing in pain, I put on my most innocent face and shook my head vigorously. I have no idea. This afternoon, when I came back, they were mocking me for being a barren hen. I just talked back a little. That's all. Then, raising her voice in anger, she said, over this, they actually dared to hit you. Do they think the He family has no one left to stand up for you? Come on, let's go to the police station and get the officers to sort this out. With that, I grabbed his arm and started pulling him towards the door. He Shu Wen hesitated for a moment, then shook off my hand. Forget it, he said. We're neighbors. It's probably just a misunderstanding. I'll go to his place tomorrow and get to the bottom of it. He took off his padded jacket and hung it on the coat rack behind the door. He wrung out another cold towel and pressed it to his face. He hissed in pain several times. After a long moment, he complained to me, by the way, why didn't you even let me know you were being discharged? I made a wasted trip to the hospital. Since you've recovered, let's go and finalize the adoption paperwork tomorrow. If we drag our feet any longer, someone else might take the child. I thought about it for a moment and didn't outright refuse. I could only say with some difficulty, tomorrow won't work. My parents want me to go home tomorrow. They said there's something going on at home. When I mentioned my parents, a look of hesitation crossed He Shu Wen's face. In all the years since we got married, my parents have helped us out more times than I can count. The job he got at the steel mill was actually arranged through my brother's connections with his father-in-law. Naturally, he wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of my family. I tried to set his mind at ease. The day after tomorrow, I'll stay at my parents' place tomorrow night. You ride your bike over there first thing the next morning. And I'll have my brother drive us to the orphanage in his brother-in-law's car. It's freezing out. I can't exactly come back holding the baby on the back of your bicycle. Can I? Hearing this, He Shuwen's brow gradually relaxed, and the smile on his face grew a touch more genuine. He pulled me into a tight hug. "You're always so thoughtful, dear. You're right. Let's go take care of the paperwork the morning after tomorrow." Looking at his face, I felt a wave of nausea so strong I nearly threw up. The next day, He Shuwen was beaming with joy. Before heading to work, he actually slipped me 500 yuan, telling me not to go back to my parents' house empty-handed. With a beaming smile, I tucked the money into my pocket. I spent the afternoon out shopping until it was nearly time for He Shuwen to get off work. Only then did I hop on my bike and pedal at a leisurely pace straight to the residential compound where Liu Qingqing lived. The apartment Liu Qingqing currently lives in was newly purchased after the death of He Shuwen's elder brother, worried that living in the old house would prevent her from moving past the grief of losing her husband. Her in-laws took it upon themselves to sell the property and buy this small 2-bedroom apartment in a new development for her. The neighbors around weren't really aware of Liu Qingqing's past and simply assumed she was her in-laws' daughter. Her in-laws didn't offer much explanation either. After their son's passing, they truly did come to regard Liu Qingqing as their own daughter. I took a seat in the noodle shop across from the residential complex and ordered a bowl of noodles. Before long, I saw He Shuwen and Liu Qingqing walk into the residential complex together. Chatting and laughing, I didn't leave until it was completely dark, and only after making sure they hadn't gone out again did I feel at ease. At 9 o'clock that night, I pounded on my in-laws' door with a thunderous racket. "Dad, Mom, open the door, quick, it's terrible. My sister-in-law has been harassed by some thugs. Sis, something terrible has happened. Open the door, quick." My in-laws lived in an old-style tube-shaped apartment building, where the neighbors were packed in right next to each other. Hearing my frantic pounding on the door, the neighbors threw on their clothes and came out, urgently asking me what was wrong. I put on a tearful, dramatic performance, pouring my heart out. Apparently, a few local thugs who were fans of my sister-in-law's theater troupe saw how beautiful she was and actually followed her all the way into the residential compound. He Shuwen was also injured by the thugs while trying to protect my sister-in-law. I only managed to slip away in the midst of the chaos. Everyone living here are longtime neighbors of my in-laws. Most of them had watched the He brothers, Shuwen and his sibling, grow up. Now, with the elder brother gone, his widow was being harassed by local thugs. Their fury was ignited. They quickly went home to get dressed, grabbed whatever weapons they could find, and set out to teach those punks a lesson. A group of over a dozen men rode their bicycles, arriving in a formidable procession outside Liu Qingqing's house. From inside the room, the faint sound of a woman pleading could be heard. "No more, please, no more. I can't take it. I'm begging you, let me go." But the pleading sounded far too suggestive. Less like a victim of assault and more like playful banter. For a moment, everyone just looked at each other, unsure if they should barge in. My mother-in-law was the first to snap out of it. Her face flushed crimson as she tried to smooth things over. "There must be some misunderstanding," she said. "It's so late. Perhaps everyone should just head home for now." But it was too late. With a thunderous bang, I kicked the front door wide open and shouted, "Sis, don't be afraid, I've brought help." Then, he shouted over his shoulder, "What are you all standing around for? Hurry up and follow me in to catch the pervert." A few minutes later, everyone stared in stunned silence as I sat astride He Shuwen, slapping the two figures hiding under the blanket with all my might. "He Shuwen, you goddamned bastard. You're worse than an animal. Our eldest brother's body isn't even cold yet, and you're already sleeping with his wife. Have you no shame? Have you no sense of morality? This is incest. You're worse than animals. How can our parents ever show their faces again? How can our elder brother rest in peace? I'll beat you two shameless dogs to death." The two of them didn't dare to fight back at all. Stark naked and trembling, they hid under the covers, shouting, "Stop, stop it right now. There's no way I'm stopping." I fought until my hands went numb and lost all feeling. In my past life, they treated me like a fool, keeping me in the dark for a lifetime. I slaved away for them. In the end, all I was left with were two collapsed mud brick houses and a mountain of debt. The room was full of neighbors. Caught in a dilemma, stepping in to break up the fight seemed just as bad as not stepping in. The commotion drew a crowd of onlookers from the Willow Green residential community as well. The room was packed with people. It was only then that my in-laws snapped out of their stunned disbelief. They desperately tried to pull me off the bed, pleading, "Dear girl, we know you're furious. You've hit them. You've cursed them. Now, please come down, let them get dressed, and we'll handle the rest for you." Seeing I remained unmoved, relentlessly pounding my fists into their heads, my mother-in-law dropped to her knees with a thud before me. "Jiwei, I'm begging you as your mother. Please, come down first, let them put their clothes on." "All right." I glanced around out of the corner of my eye, seeing the room full of people. I knew their sordid affair could no longer be hidden. All the strength drained from my body, I slid right off the bed and crumpled to the floor. Burying my face in my hands as I sobbed, I just had to cover my face. I was afraid my laughter would be too obvious. All the unnecessary people in the room were asked to leave. The old woman apologized repeatedly to her longtime neighbors. After seeing them downstairs, she locked the door from the inside. She helped me up from the floor and guided me to sit on a chair in the living room. I still had my face buried in my hands, sobbing silently. My father-in-law slammed his hand on the table and roared, "You two animals, what are you still doing in bed? Get dressed and get your asses out here this instant." Moments later, Shuwen emerged from the bedroom, his hair disheveled and his face smeared with blood. "Some were caught by the Jew family yesterday, and the rest I just caught." He knelt rigidly on the ground, not uttering a word. The father-in-law stared at him coldly, then suddenly lashed out with a vicious kick to his chest. Shuwen was sent sprawling to the floor by the blow, with his lips pressed into a thin line. He struggled to his feet once more and knelt back down in the exact same spot. The old man pointed a trembling finger at his face and roared, "You beast, that woman in there is your sister-in-law, your own brother's wife. How could you stoop to such a vile, despicable act? You've never given me a moment's peace since you were a child. Chasing chickens, harassing dogs, causing trouble with your mischief. You rely on cheap tricks and cunning to cut corners. You're not even half the man your elder brother was. Your brother doted on you, loved you when you were young. Every time you messed up, he was the one who shielded you, who took the blame, and has been gone for what, barely 2 or 3 years. Look at the filthy, low-life thing you've done." The old man was so furious he could barely breathe, his hand trembling as he pointed at Shuwen. Those words must have hit a raw nerve with Shuwen. He, who had been hanging his head all this time, suddenly looked up and glared fiercely at his father. The old man raised his hand and slapped him. "What, you still have something to say?" Shuwen pressed his tongue against the side of his face his father had struck. And suddenly, he smiled. He slowly rose to his feet. Then, with a defiant nonchalance, he spat out a mouthful of bloody saliva. He looked at his father with a taunting glare. "Yeah, I'm not as good as your eldest son in every way, so what? No matter how great, how outstanding he surely was, he was still a short-lived bastard, dead at 30. Ever since I was a child, you've always compared me to Shuli. In your eyes, I could never measure up to him. When he married my sister-in-law, you thought they were a perfect match. But when I married Shu Jiwei, you said I was marrying above my station. Marrying above my station, what nonsense. You only saw that her family had a bit of that filthy money, that her brother had latched onto the daughter of a powerful family. That's why you were so eager to send a matchmaker to propose back then. But let me tell you, I never even liked Shu Jiwei. The only person I've ever loved is my sister-in-law." I let out a bitter, incredulous laugh. "You want to chase your so-called true love? Fine, chase it. But what gives you the right to drag me down while you're at it?" The old man was shaking with rage. He clutched his chest and collapsed into his chair. The mother-in-law lunged forward, covering Shuwen's mouth, then pounded his chest twice, sobbing, "You wretched creature, shut your mouth this instant. Are you trying to give your father a heart attack?" Shuwen suddenly turned to look at me, his voice dripping with malice. "Shu Jiwei, you set this whole thing up on purpose, didn't you?" I feigned ignorance, putting on an innocent face. "Are you saying I deliberately lured you to your sister-in-law's place, deliberately arranged for you to strip naked and get into her bed, deliberately orchestrated you two being tangled up together, giggling and flirting shamelessly? Enough." Shuwen cut me off. Furious beyond words, he roughly swept his disheveled hair back, struggling to contain his fury, since the truth is out in the open now. There's no point hiding Qingqing and me any longer, Xu Jiwei. I want a divorce. Get out. I never want to see you again. He didn't wait for my reply. He then turned to his parents, enunciating each word clearly. After the divorce, I will marry Qingqing and bring her home. Whether you agree or not makes no difference. If you agree, I'll still be your son. If you don't, then you can consider me as dead as my older brother. Now, I want all of you to leave. I fell silent. I was worried he'd drag his feet and refuse to get a divorce. But now, it's all good. He's decided to go and pursue his own happiness. My divorce from He Shuwen is proceeding very smoothly. Everything except his personal belongings and clothes goes to me. That includes the bicycle he's ridden for 3 years and all his wages and bonuses for this year. Of course, he didn't agree at first. I threatened to go to Liu Qingqing's theater troupe and expose her affair with her brother-in-law to the leadership. It was only under this threat that He Shuwen was forced to give in. He couldn't bear the thought of his Qingqing suffering even the slightest harm, and that was his condition. After receiving the assets, I was not to cause any more trouble at Liu Qingqing's theater troupe. I agreed, but whether I could actually keep that promise was another matter entirely. On the day we went to get the divorce certificate, Liu Qingqing came along too, as if to stake her claim. She sat on the back of He Shuwen's newly bought bicycle, her arms wrapped tightly around his waist. After getting the certificate, we walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau. He Shuwen snapped at me, Xu Jiwei. I never imagined you could be so low and scheming. You've ruined both my and Qingqing's reputations. Do you have any idea what the people in her neighborhood think of her now? Do you know what my colleagues at work are saying about me? I watched the two lovebirds, arm in arm, with an icy stare. They had the gall to think I was ruining their reputation. When their own behavior was so disgraceful, I let out a scornful laugh. I don't know what others think, but in my book, you two are the very picture of shamelessness. Utterly depraved and without a shred of decency. Liu Qingqing froze, her face turning deathly pale. She whimpered tearfully, Shuwen, she said such awful things about us. He Shuwen flew into a rage. Look at yourself, acting like a shrew. I regret ever marrying you. Qingqing and I share true love. How dare you slander her like that? Apologize to Qingqing right now, or you'll be sorry. I looked at him like he was an idiot. Apologize my ass, you moron. I pedaled my bicycle another 20 meters away. Only then, from behind me, came the sound of his furious roars and curses. Ha, that's it, after the divorce. I promptly resigned from my job at the company. In my past life, I had experience running a restaurant, so, using the money from my divorce settlement and borrowing some from my parents, I opened a restaurant with 3 storefronts in the city center. A wave of layoffs is on the horizon. And it's just the first of many to come. Even if I don't quit, I'll likely be among those laid off in the future. What I need to do now is save money and quietly wait for the stock market bull run of '96 to arrive. Because I remember exactly which stocks were the most profitable, I had assumed that after our divorce, He Shuwen would marry Liu Qingqing as soon as possible and adopt He Xin from the orphanage. But he didn't. Instead, he dragged it out for 2 or 3 months. One rainy day, I happened to come across Mrs. He, who had fallen on the street. After taking her to the clinic, she held my hand and started talking, and that's when I finally learned the whole story, after the affair was exposed. The scandal spread like wildfire. Mr. and Mrs. He was so ashamed they couldn't hold their heads up. They moved straight back to their old home in the countryside. Shortly after returning to the village, Mr. He fell ill. His mother came to the city this time to sell the old house they used to live in. He Shuwen had gone back to see his parents, hoping they would move back to the city so they could help him take care of He Xin. But his father didn't even open the gate to the courtyard. When He Shuwen and I divorced, he essentially left with nothing. Wages at the steel mill weren't paid monthly. Sometimes it was every 3 months, sometimes half a year. So, he was perpetually short on cash. As for Liu Qingqing, her salary was largely spent on pursuing a certain quality of life, being a stage actress. Her profession naturally made her all the more conscious of her appearance. The couple had no spare money to raise a child. nor could they afford a nanny. So the matter of adopting a child just kept getting postponed. When I found out that Liu Qingqing and He Shuwen weren't even married yet, I started to get quietly anxious. How could this be? True love should be sealed tight. So, as soon as I got home, I immediately wrote an anonymous report and mailed it to the troop where Liu Qingqing works. I reported her for forging medical documents to fraudulently claim wages, causing financial harm to the organization. Furthermore, she interfered in another person's marriage, had an illegitimate child, severely damaged the marital relationship, and violated basic moral principles. Only by destroying her career would she be forced to throw herself completely into He Shuwen's arms. As for He Shuwen, I won't be touching his job for now. After all, what if he gets laid off and Liu Qingqing doesn't want to be with him anymore? My restaurant has only been open for about 6 months, and business is already booming. These days, state-run restaurants still make up the majority in the city, but the attitude of the service staff is, for the most part, less than ideal. I train my staff with a service-first approach, always smiling, genuinely warm, and never overcharging customers. If a guest orders too much, we thoughtfully remind them to avoid waste, and after the meal, we serve a complimentary plate of seasonal fruit. We're seeing more and more repeat customers, and our reputation keeps getting better. In the sweltering heat of July, I went to the city hospital for a checkup because I kept feeling short of breath and tightness in my chest. Unexpectedly, in the hospital corridor, I ran into He Shuwen holding He Xin. He was sitting on a bench, his gaze vacant and his face pale. It had only been a little over half a year since I last saw him, but he had aged terribly. His hair was a mess, and he had a scruffy beard. It's true, whoever takes care of the kids ends up looking older. As I walked out of the consultation room, I heard a commotion coming from the one next door. "Doctor, please, I'm begging you to save my daughter. I simply can't scrape together enough money to go to a big city for treatment. You're so skilled, please. You must have a way. I've heard from others that you're an expert in treating heart conditions. You must have a solution. Please, save my child." I looked around, but I couldn't see Liu Qingqing anywhere. The doctor's voice was laced with anger. "What do you think you're doing, kneeling here like that? If I could save your child, do you think I'd just stand by and do nothing? I've told you, your daughter's condition is far too complex. We can't handle it here. No one in this hospital can perform that kind of surgery. You need to go to Beijing or Shanghai. Get up, now, don't hold up the other patients." From outside the door, I watched as He Shuwen's back slowly slumped, until he finally collapsed and sat on the floor. I understand exactly how he feels right now, because in my past life, I was exactly where he stands now. But in this life, whether that baby girl lives or dies is none of my concern. I turned to leave. "Xu Jiwei." The man behind me suddenly called out to stop me. Staggering forward with the child in his arms, he came up to me and said, "Xu Jiwei, could you lend me 80,000 yuan? Xinxin has been diagnosed with a heart condition and needs surgery." His words left me utterly stunned. I simply never expected him to have the gall to ask such a thing. "He Shuwen, have you lost your damn mind? You're asking me for money to treat the bastard child you had with Liu Qingqing." He Shuwen was taken aback. "What nonsense are you spouting? Xinxin is a child I adopted from the orphanage." I stared at him coldly and let out a scornful laugh. "What do you think? Just because people don't say anything, you think they're fools? Then do you dare to go to the hospital for a paternity test?" Unexpectedly, He Shuwen offered no further excuses. He looked at me pleadingly. "Jiwei, all the fault is mine and Qingqing's. It has nothing to do with Xinxin. The doctor said she'll die without the surgery. Please, I'm begging you, could you go ask your brother to borrow a few tens of thousands for us, so now he remembers my brother?" I looked at the desperation and despair written all over his face and curled my lips into a cold sneer. "Weren't you the one who looked down on my brother for marrying into a powerful and wealthy family? How do you have the nerve to ask them for money now? This hypocrisy of yours is utterly disgusting." He Shuwen opened his mouth, about to say something. I cut him off directly. "I don't have the nerve to go ask my brother. Why don't you go ask him for the loan yourself and see if he's willing to lend it to you?" With that, I turned and walked away. Ever since my brother found out about his affair, he's been itching for a chance to teach him a lesson. If he dares to borrow from them, he'll probably learn firsthand why the roses are so red. I heard He Shuwen has been so worried about raising money for his daughter's surgery that he can't eat or sleep. I knew this was my perfect chance to kick him while he was down. Just as I was preparing to write a letter to He Shuwen's workplace, reporting him for abusing his power for personal gain, then, news suddenly broke that He Shuwen had been arrested for embezzling public funds. Anxious for details, I asked around everywhere until I finally learned the specific reason for his arrest. The forbidden affair between He Shuwen and his elder brother's wife had become the talk of the steel mill, but since I, the wronged party, never made a scene about it. The mill's leadership simply turned a blind eye. His name was quietly removed from the list of candidates for promotion to manager. Later, after Liu Qingqing was expelled from the theater troupe, she simply moved into the steel mill's residential compound where He Shuwen lived. While everyone gossiped about it, they were a divorced man and a widow. Even though he was her brother-in-law, people couldn't find much fault with their situation. After getting married, they adopted a baby girl with a heart condition from the welfare home. Ever since bringing the child home, the couple argued constantly. Big fights every few days, small squabbles in between. Gradually, Liu Qingqing rarely came home to pay for the child's medical treatment. He Shuwen borrowed money from every colleague he could, but no one was exactly flush with cash. As the saying goes, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. As time went on, no one would lend him money anymore. Just as He Shuwen was at his wit's end over his daughter's surgery expenses, a factory payment of over 70,000 yuan landed in his hands. In the end, after much internal struggle, he used the money to pay for his daughter's surgery. Just 1 month after He Shuwen embezzled public funds, the company's finance department discovered the discrepancy and reported it to the police. He Shuwen was taken away by the police for questioning, however. Because he has a daughter in frail health who requires care, and with the child's mother not present, the police granted him bail pending further investigation. The steel mill's legal department instructed He Shuwen to return the 70,000 yuan within 1 month, after which they would not pursue legal action. But the money had already been used for He Shin's surgery, and He Shuwen simply couldn't repay it. In the end, it was his father and mother who scraped together every penny they could, combined with the money from selling their house earlier, to repay the debt to the work unit on their son's behalf. Following this incident, He Shuwen was, of course, fired. The housing unit he lived in, provided by the steel mill for employees' families, was also taken back, with no other choice. He had to take He Shin back to the countryside. As for Liu Qingqing, it was as if she had vanished from the city overnight. No one knew where she had gone. Time flew by, and several years passed in the blink of an eye. With the money I earned from running a restaurant and trading stocks, I bought 2 apartments in the capital. I also opened a restaurant in the capital. I handed over the original restaurant to my cousin to manage, and I take a 20% cut of the profits each year. In the following years, I was busy opening new locations and investing in property. Once my savings grew, I gradually started to slow down my work pace. Later, through a friend's introduction, I also embarked on a new relationship. His name is Dao Heng, and he's a researcher in organic chemistry. He's also been married before. However, the circumstances of his divorce were different from the situation between me and He Shuwen. There was no infidelity or betrayal, they simply had different outlooks on life. His ex-wife was an adventurous woman who loved travel and challenges, such as climbing snow-capped mountains, rock climbing, or venturing deep into jungles and grasslands. He, however, preferred a more settled life, enjoying quiet weekends at home reading books and listening to music. Realizing they were incompatible, they parted ways amicably and divorced. When I brought Dao Heng home to meet my parents, my brother was overly enthusiastic. He kept plying Dao Heng with drinks and ended up drinking quite a bit himself. After dinner, I didn't have the driver take us. Instead, we walked back slowly, arm in arm. As we passed by Chunming Road, we saw a steamy, inviting wonton stall. Knowing Dao Heng had been drinking all night without eating, I pulled him along. intending to get him a bowl of hot wonton soup to warm his stomach, but when I got a clear look at the apron-wearing shop owner, I froze in my tracks. It was He Shu-wen. Beside him sat a thin, frail-looking little girl, clutching a cloth doll and idly swinging her legs from her stool, as if sensing my presence. The man wrapping wontons looked up at me. Our eyes met. He Shu-wen's face was a mask of shock, his eyelashes fluttering. "Jiwei, you're here." When his gaze landed on our clasped hands, mine and Dao Heng's, his body went rigid. His voice was hoarse as he asked, "Is this your boyfriend?" I nodded. The light in He Shu-wen's eyes slowly faded. Dao Heng seemed to have guessed He Shu-wen's identity. He pointed ahead and whispered, "You two talk. I'll go up ahead to clear my head. Just call if you need me." He didn't go far, just about 20 or 30 meters away. Just then, a thin, petite girl walked over from the side. She took He Shu-wen's hand and asked, "Daddy, I'm so sleepy and cold. When can we go home?" He Shu-wen's heart ached as he patted her head. "Be good, Shinshin. Let's hold on a little longer. Then we'll have the money for your medicine and next semester's tuition." "Oh, right. This is your Auntie Shu. Say hello to Auntie." He seemed lost in thought, his words coming out in a halting, stumbling manner. I pulled a box of chocolates from my bag and offered it to her. "Hello," I said. He Shin looked up at her father. Only after seeing He Shu-wen nod in approval did she eagerly accept the chocolates from my hand. "Thank you, Auntie Shu," clutching the chocolate. She sat back down on the tall stool. He Shu-wen watched her retreating figure and sighed. "Shinshin had a heart stent surgery when she was little. She'll need to take blood thinners for the rest of her life. Liu Qingqing never cared for her. After I got fired from the steel mill, she ran off with another man. On her way out, she even cleaned out the last 1,000-some yuan I had on me." His eyes glistened with tears. "Jiwei, I was wrong. I never should have divorced you back then. I brought all of this on myself. If I said I regret it, would you give me another chance?" I watched him quietly, struck by how familiar some of his expressions were. He wiped his tears with his sleeve. "Would you like a bowl of wontons? You always loved the shrimp wontons I used to make for you." My heart gave a sudden, sharp pang. I'm certain He Shu-wen has come back, too, because it was on our 10th wedding anniversary that he first tried making wontons for me. They ended up a complete, mushy mess, but he didn't give up. He kept trying, over and over again. I later found out from his diary that it was because Liu Qingqing loved wontons. He thought the restaurants outside were unsanitary, so he learned how to mix the filling and wrap them himself, using my stomach as his practice run. At that thought, I gave a mocking smile. "Forget it. I can't stomach the wontons you make. You'd better save them for your sister-in-law." A look of embarrassment flashed across He Shu-wen's face. His back stiffened, and he turned to take a bottle of milk from the glass cabinet, placing it in front of me. "I remember you often have trouble sleeping at night and have a habit of drinking milk." I didn't even glance at that bottle of milk, my eyes fixed on his right leg, and I asked in surprise, "You're limping?" He looked down at his leg, his expression pained. "When Shinshin was 4, I took her to the hospital for a checkup. She suddenly ran into the middle of the road. I tried to save her, and a car ran over my right leg. I've been lame ever since. No company wants to hire a cripple, so I set up a stall selling wontons." His voice grew softer, tinged with a slight sob. "Jiwei, I regret it. I truly regret it. If I hadn't been so blinded by lust back then, I wouldn't have ended up where I am today." I looked into his eyes with a mocking gaze. "He Shu-wen, you might regret it now, but you only regret not being able to hide it from me. If you had succeeded, what would you have done?" He Shu-wen's face was a picture of utter bewilderment. I continued, "You would sneak behind my back, reveling in the illicit thrill of your affair with Liu Qingqing. You would secretly transfer assets, leaving me with nothing but a mountain of debt." A flicker of guilt and panic flashed in He Shu-wen's eyes. "What are you implying?" I said coldly. "You know exactly what I mean. Stop pretending. I know you're a reincarnator. I've read everything you wrote in your diary." He Shu-wen's body trembled. A long moment passed, his knees buckled, and he knelt straight down before me. "I'm sorry. I know it's too late for words. I only hope you can forgive me for what I did in our past life." I looked down at him, my voice icy. "He Shu-wen, you are absolute trash. I used to hate you. wished I could cut you into 1,000 pieces. But not anymore. I won't forgive you, and I won't hate you either, because to me, you're no different from the maggots in a cesspool." Shu Wen's head jerked up. His lips trembling slightly, he seemed to want to say something, but the words caught in his throat. After that, I never saw Shu Wen again. I also rarely heard any news about him. He was swept away by the torrent of life like a grain of sand. And the page of his story was quietly turned over. When my son was 2 years old, Dao Heng and I took him to visit his maternal grandparents. An old friend invited me to catch up, and during our conversation, I heard the news that Xin had passed away from a myocardial infarction. To be honest, I was quite shocked. Upon further inquiry, it was discovered that she had suffered a myocardial infarction caused by stent thrombosis, which resulted from her unauthorized discontinuation of anticoagulant medication. It turned out that Shu Wen made a living by running a wonton stall on Chunming Street, with an income that barely covered his basic needs. Later, the city management authorities tightened regulations and no longer permitted unauthorized street vending. The wonton stall was forced to shut down. To earn money, Shu Wen went to work on a construction site, but with a lame leg, the tasks he could handle were limited. Xin's heart ached for her father, thinking she could save him a little trouble, so, just after turning 12, she secretly stopped taking her anticoagulant medication. After Xin passed away, Shu Wen remained in a state of near madness. He was always boasting that his daughter was a top student from a prestigious 985 university, and that he himself was a billionaire CEO. At Xin's funeral, Liu Qingqing showed up, leading a boy of about 5 or 6 by the hand. The boy was chubby and sturdy, clearly well cared for, a stark contrast to Xin's frail appearance in life. The boy whined that the funeral was no fun at all, pestering his mother to take him to an amusement park and for KFC. Liu Qingqing held him, offering comfort. "After we bury your sister, Mommy will take you to the amusement park and for some KFC." Upon hearing this, Shu Wen's eyes turned bloodshot. With a furious roar, he grabbed Liu Qingqing by the hair, dragged her to Xin's coffin, and slammed her head against it with brutal force, again and again. The sound was a series of heavy, sickening thuds. It was as if a death knell had tolled for Xin. A full half-hour passed before she finally, and unhurriedly, dialed for an ambulance. A friend remarked that the last few years of Shu Wen's life could fill a book. It was all so melodramatic and theatrical. I forced a smile, but no laughter came. Fate has a way of turning on a dime. A single choice can alter the course of a lifetime. They chose their own path and fulfilled their destiny. And so, I set out on my own journey. May our paths never cross again in this vast, uncertain world. Story 2. When I opened my eyes again, I was holding a bunch of bright red roses in my hand, and I was shyly handing them to Jiyu Chen. The people watching the fun next to me winked. "The rich lady is proposing to you. Accept it quickly. Jiyu Chen will be the son-in-law of the Meng family in the future." In the midst of jokes, Jiyu Chen's eyes were red with anger. He flipped the table. He also stepped hard on my roses. It was not until my whole face was pressed into the cake that I was extremely sure I was reborn. Meng Sui Sui, what else do you have besides money? Don't think that you can do whatever you want to me just because you helped Zhenzhen. I have promised to stay away from Zhenzhen. What else do you want? Jiyu Chen asked harshly, as if I really insulted him. I fell in love with Jiyu Chen at first sight and pursued him hard since I entered school, bringing him breakfast made by myself, getting up at 6 in the morning to reserve a seat, taking over his group assignments. These were all the first times in my life, and I gave them all to him without reservation. But Jiyu Chen was not happy. He said he had someone he liked, who was outside the school. I was sad, but I didn't want to be a mistress, so I stayed away quietly, until last month. Jiyu Chen suddenly said he was willing to be with me, on the condition that I gave him 1 million and arranged for my brother, a surgeon, to perform surgery on Bai Yueguang's sister. He raised his hand and swore that he would definitely pay back the money, and since I helped him, he would be mine from now on. Without any hesitation, I liked Jiyu Chen like crazy, naively thought this was a destined idol drama, so I readily agreed to this absurd deal. After getting 1 million, I also begged my brother to perform surgery on his by Yueguang's sister, but in the eyes of outsiders, I was a despicable person who used money to force him to be with me. Some people said that I was so rich, if I really liked Ji Chen, this 1 million would be given, and I didn't need to pay it back. Some people also said that I was just vicious and wanted to break up the couple who were destined to be lovers in my last life. I felt guilty and doubted whether I had really broken up Ji Chen and Qin Zhenzhen. Now that I think about it, they just took advantage of me. My shoulder was hit hard, and Qin Zhenzhen appeared out of nowhere, holding a tissue and wiping the cake crumbs off Ji Chen's hands with a distressed look on her face. Ji Chen was just like a wolfhound with mad hair, but now his whole aura has softened. He is really in Cao's camp, but his heart is with Han. Qin Zhenzhen stared at me. Meng Sui Sui. Don't go too far, we will pay back the 1 million sooner or later. You are not allowed to insult Ji Chen like this. I laughed in anger. Booking a whole hotel for Ji Chen's birthday is an insult. Qin Zhenzhen's sister next to her also began to blackmail her morally. Meng Sui Sui, love is selfless dedication. Without asking for anything in return, how can you force them to pay it back? That's right. Ji Chen and Zhenzhen's love is stronger than gold. If you really love Ji Chen, just help them. Don't think that having a few stinky money is great. Ji Chen has always loved Zhenzhen. Your rude interference will only make Ji Chen hate you more. This is the behavior of a mistress. Do you know, I said nothing, took the towel handed over by the waiter, and quietly wiped the thick layer of cake on my face. Then I took a knife to cut off a piece and put it in my mouth to taste it. In fact, Ji Chen and I have the same birthday, in order to prepare a perfect birthday party for him. I didn't celebrate my birthday for the first time in more than 20 years. This cake is the result of my learning for a month. Unexpectedly, before I could eat it, Ji Chen pressed it into the cake and ruined it. I used to think that God arranged for me to have the same birthday as him, which was a destined fate. Now it seems that Ji Chen is my nemesis. Seeing that I had been silent, I was just eating the cake with a dejected look. Ji Chen finally felt a little flustered. He frowned. Meng Sui Sui. Why are you crazy? It's just a cake. Don't act like someone bullied you. Qin Zhenzhen took Ji Chen's hand, her eyes full of contempt. Don't worry about her. The more she clings to you, she will break up with you if she has the guts. Okay, we break up. Ji Chen paused. What did you say? I threw the cake in my hand on Ji Chen's face and replied. I said, we broke up. Don't you understand what I'm saying? Qin Zhenzhen, who was closest to Ji Chen, exclaimed in the face of the cake attack. Meng Sui Sui, what's wrong with you? You can't bear to leave Ji Chen. Ji Chen also looked frosty. Playing hard to get doesn't work on me. Your approach will only make me hate you more and more. I crossed my arms and sneered, get out, or I'll find someone to beat you out. This was the first time I said such harsh words to them. I like Ji Chen. So I speak softly and never dare to speak loudly, let alone sneer like today. I treat Qin Zhenzhen even more carefully, for fear that if I annoy her, Ji Chen will be unhappy. Despite this, Ji Chen did not change his opinion of me, and even joined Qin Zhenzhen to kill me personally, even if it is a dog. After more than 20 years of hard work, it should be raised well. Qin Zhenzhen had never suffered such grievances in front of me, and immediately leaned on Ji Chen's arms and cried aggrievedly. Her sisters immediately launched a siege against me. Too arrogant. What did Zhenzhen do wrong? Why treat her like this? Even if you kill Zhenzhen, Ji Chen will not like you. Ji Chen, are you still a man? You bully Zhenzhen like this. Ji Chen's face was ugly after being instigated, and his voice became colder. Meng Sui Sui, I just threw your roses and cakes. Is it necessary to be so aggressive? I borrowed the 1 million. It has nothing to do with Zhenzhen. You can't bully her. If it were any other time, he would frown, and I would not dare to continue. But now, what does it have to do with me? I looked at Ji Chen with sarcasm. Okay, 1 million. How are you going to pay it back? 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years? Ji Chen's family is ordinary, and he can't even worry about food and drink, let alone a debt of 1 million. He was irritated by my teasing eyes, and veins popped up on his forehead. 3 months. I will pay you back the money in 3 months, Ji Chen. Qin Zhenzhen pulled Ji Yuchen's clothes. Looking ugly, Ji Yuchen was obviously overwhelmed by contempt, and touched Qin Zhenzhen soothingly. Don't be afraid, I will pay the money back. You can rest assured to take care of Yuan Yuan. She just had surgery and can't leave without someone around. Qin Zhenzhen knew that she couldn't persuade Ji Yuchen, so she looked at me angrily. Meng Sui Sui, pay the money back, and Ji Yuchen will have nothing to do with you anymore. I nodded indifferently. Seeing that I was unmoved, her sisters were indignant. You will regret it, Meng Sui Sui. We will never forgive you if you come to our Ji Yuchen crying in the future. Other onlookers also whispered, TSK, she's pretending again. How could she bear to part with Ji Yuchen? It's obvious that she wants to threaten him with money. How can she pay back 1 million in 3 months? She wants to lock Ji Yuchen in. What a vicious person. You still say that you are relying on your family's money. Sooner or later, you will get retribution. No one believes that I will really break up with Ji Yuchen. After all, I loved him so much that I almost lost myself in love. Ji Yuchen left with Qin Zhenzhen and others. The remaining onlookers also gradually dispersed. The huge hotel was decorated with lights and colors, but it was lonely to talk in vain. My best friend Jiang Shui touched my shoulder. Don't you want to chase him? I smiled. We broke up. What's the point of chasing him? Jiang Shui thought of my past and said helplessly, if you really want to, you can do it. For him, you didn't even celebrate your birthday, and lied to your brother that the hotel was for your party. Sui Sui, I think you should go and exorcise the evil spirits. I don't know what's so good about that Ji Yuchen. I don't like Ji Yuchen anymore, I said seriously, but Jiang Shui didn't believe it. Who can be fooled by such nonsense? Qin Zhenzhen dropped out of school. And you begged your father to send her back to school to continue studying for Ji Yuchen's happiness. And your brother, a dignified cardiac surgeon, was originally studying abroad, but because of you, he came back to do surgery for free. What about you? Look at your hands, the dark circles under your eyes. And your haggard look. I almost don't recognize you. I listened to Jiang Shui's every word and suddenly realized that I had paid so much for him. But Ji Yuchen never remembers and always only wants to take. I exhaled heavily and met Jiang Shui's expression of disappointment. Don't worry, I will never like Ji Yuchen again. Maybe I was too abnormal. Jiang Shui opened her mouth wide and closed it tightly. Sister, give up your boyfriend tonight and accompany you well, so that you won't cry too much. I smiled speechlessly. That night, Jiang Shui and I drank a lot of wine together. I vented the pain and hatred that had accumulated in my heart for a lifetime. I hugged Jiang Shui and cried and laughed. Jiang Shui scolded me for being crazy and going crazy without Ji Yuchen. I shook my head, raised my glass to her and said, "Congratulations on my new life." Jiang Shui and I laughed and joked all the way to the dormitory building. Suddenly, I saw Ji Yuchen and Qin Zhenzhen not far away. Qin Zhenzhen cried softly. Ji Yuchen looked distressed and kept wiping her tears. Finally, the two hugged and kissed tightly. Jiang Shui covered my eyes. Afraid that I would be angry, I just raised the corners of my mouth slightly, and my heart was calm. After class the next day, I asked Jiang Shui to help me clean up the dormitory. My family is in the local area, and I also bought a house near the school. But in order to make it easier to pursue Ji Yuchen, I chose to live on campus. But there is no need to endure the hardship now. I was just halfway through cleaning when Qin Zhenzhen and her group of little sisters came back. As soon as he saw me, he immediately started to act pretentiously. "Zhenzhen, I saw you and Ji Yuchen hugging each other tightly downstairs last night. You didn't come back in the middle of the night. Did you go to get a room?" Qin Zhenzhen lowered her head shyly and didn't say anything, but her expression was enough to tell everything. The few people looked at me with squinted eyes. Ji Yuchen is handsome and outstanding. If it weren't for some people interfering, you would have already become the most enviable couple in the school. That's right, you think you are great just because you have a few stinky money, and you even play the trick of paying off debts. You must play it too hard. Ji Yuchen's family is not bad either. Which of our clothes and bags are not bought by Ji Yuchen? Hearing this, I looked at the brand name bags on several people in surprise. Did Ji Yuchen buy all these for you? Qin Zhenzhen looked proud and raised the Hermes in her hand. Do you think you are the only one with money? if Ji Chen's brother hadn't suppressed him, he wouldn't have asked you for a mere 1 million. I laughed. Just 1 million. Ji Chen applied for a student loan for this school. He is lying. I like Ji Chen. So I will give him a large sum of money when he asks me to borrow money. In order to take care of his pitiful self-esteem, I always make excuses to ask him to run errands for me and count it as errand fees, and keep the secondary card with him under various excuses. It turns out that all this money was spent on Qin Zhenzhen and her group of little sisters. Qin Zhenzhen saw that I was frowning, and said proudly, "You can see that Ji Chen only has me in his heart forever. If you kneel down and beg me, and call Ji Chen to ask him not to pay back the 1 million, I can barely let Ji Chen forgive you. Also, give me 200,000 every month. After all, I will go abroad soon, and my sister needs someone to take care of her." Others laughed. The look in their eyes was full of contempt for me, as if they were looking at some cheap garbage. Qin Zhenzhen met my gaze and spoke unscrupulously. "By the way, I thought about it. If I study in Europe, I can't speak the language. I haven't even passed the CET4, it's not too much to hire a translator, right? It would be best if it was a bilingual nanny who could accompany me and take care of me." Jiang Shui couldn't listen anymore and raised her hand to slap me, but I stopped her. "Meng Sui, let me go. Let me tear this bitch apart." Jiang Shui looked at me angrily, and I nodded in her eyes that looked like she wanted to spit blood. Qin Zhenzhen was surprised. And then she thought of my devotion to Ji Chen and laughed out loud. The sisters next to me were also shocked, and then laughed loudly. "No way, he is really Ji Chen's dog. I told you long ago." Meng Sui is a fool, rushing to pay for it. What's that? In the future, when Meng Chen and sister Zhenzhen have a child, she will rush to raise it. Faced with ridicule, I asked casually, "Any other requests?" Qin Zhenzhen showed a greedy smile on her face, and thought seriously. "Your brother is very handsome and excellent. He and I are both in Europe. Why don't we go together?" I sneered and threw the lamp in my hand hard at Qin Zhenzhen's feet. Qin Zhenzhen was startled and screamed, "How dare you hit me?" I ignored her anger, took out my phone, and called my secretary, Uncle Wang. "Suspend all my secondary cards." Qin Zhenzhen looked at me in confusion. "Are you trying to suspend the cards and pretend you have no money?" I ignored her and continued to make a call. "Director, I've made up my mind. Whoever got the study abroad quota before will get it. To compensate for it, I'm willing to provide a subsidy of 200,000 yuan. The director was stunned and hesitant. "Boss Meng, it's okay, just do what I say. I'll take care of my dad. Thank you for your hard work." The director was overjoyed. "Great, I'll contact him right away. The classmate's family is not well off. He was originally going to give up the quota. Now you are willing to contribute 200,000 yuan. The other party will definitely thank you very much. And the one you recommended originally didn't even pass the CET4. He eats, drinks and has fun everywhere like a little girl all day. I don't know how to tell the other school. It's great that you can change your mind." I raised my eyebrows after hearing the last few words. I was using the loudspeaker. Every word the director said was floating in the dormitory. There were many people who had returned to the dormitory to watch the fun. I smiled. "Director, you are joking." Qin Zhenzhen's face suddenly changed. "Meng Sui, what do you mean?" I was too lazy to pay attention to her and asked the female master to come up to help me get my things. Seeing that I was leaving, Qin Zhenzhen grabbed my hand, but I shook it off. She was anxious. "Ji Chen likes me. I can't do anything about it. He insisted on pestering me. If you send me abroad, he won't have a chance. Look, this is the woman that Ji Chen has loved for decades. For this woman, he didn't hesitate to kill me with his own hands." Seeing that I always ignored her, Qin Zhenzhen finally got angry. "Meng Sui, are you sick? You don't have the ability to tie a man down. Why do you take your anger out on others?" This time I smashed a vase under her feet. Qin Zhenzhen was frightened. Jiang Shui was so surprised that she could stuff an egg into her mouth, and she gave me a thumbs up. Sui, why are you so sober all of a sudden?" Jiang Shui asked cautiously. I didn't answer, but took out my credit card and said in a grand manner, "Let's go shopping. In my last life, I insisted on marrying Ji Chen despite the opposition of my parents and brother. My parents were so angry that they stopped my card in order to prove my love for Ji Chen. I gave up my life as a young lady and started working to earn money. Ji Chen studied all the way to a doctorate, and I supported him until he got a doctorate. My parents cried with heartache, but I didn't look back. Looking back now, I was really blinded by lard at that time. Jiang Shui accompanied me to go shopping in the mall, from Hermes to Patek Philippe. When I was tired of shopping, Jiang Shui pulled me into a Western restaurant for dinner. Hello, would you like some? The voice stopped abruptly. Ji Chen said angrily, Meng Sui Sui, do you have to chase and humiliate people? I glanced at Jiang Shui. No wonder she insisted on eating at this restaurant. Seeing that I didn't respond, Ji Chen became even angrier. You chased me to my workplace. Aren't you annoying? It's not 3 months yet. Get out of my workplace now. I was speechless. I just wanted to have a meal. Ji Chen snorted. You are full of lies. Why did you choose to come here when there are so many restaurants? I've only been here for 1 day and you know why you sent someone to follow me. No, I'm going to call the police. And Zhenzhen's study abroad. Why did you cancel it? It seems that Qin Zhenzhen has already told him about what happened yesterday. I'm too lazy to talk to this psychopath anymore. I really don't know why I fell in love with him in the first place. Just as I was about to leave, Qin Zhenzhen led her sisters and swaggered into the Western restaurant not far away. After seeing me, she snorted at me with her nose turned up. Qin Zhenzhen stepped forward and took Ji Chen's hand, saying tenderly, Did she follow you again? It's all my fault. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't owe her 1 million. The place for studying abroad is gone. As long as you can get rid of her completely. Ji Chen immediately hugged her in his arms with heartache, and then looked at me angrily. I will pay you back the 1 million as soon as possible. Don't think about taking your anger out on Zhenzhen. The study abroad matter has been settled. Just because of what happened last night, it has to be cancelled. Meng Sui Sui, don't be unreasonable. The school is not opened by your family. Many customers were already looking over here. They looked pitiful, hugging each other tightly, making me look like a hateful mistress. The study abroad quota was not hers in the first place. Why are you making trouble with me? Ask her if she has taken the IELTS or TOEFL exams. I took out the recording of Ji Chen begging me to change Qin Zhenzhen's quota and played it publicly. Ji Chen threatened in his voice. Meng Sui Sui, this study abroad quota must be given to Zhenzhen, so what if it belongs to someone else? Can't you grab it? Your parents are so rich. How could there be no way? Ji Chen blushed and tried to snatch my phone. I didn't let him succeed. It was the weekend. And there were many students from other schools eating here. They were stretching their necks to look over here, taking pictures with their phones, under Ji Chen's gloomy gaze. I called the manager. This waiter humiliated me. The manager looked at my bags of luxury goods, then looked at Qin Zhenzhen and others, and quickly scolded Ji Chen. Ji Chen's face turned pale after being scolded, and he threw away the menu in his hand on the spot. I quit. I stopped Ji Chen, who was about to leave, and said provocatively, If you quit, what will happen to the 1 million? Ji Chen's chest was heaving violently with anger, but he didn't move forward. At this time, Qin Zhenzhen said, We Ji Chen have money. Just go home and admit your mistakes to your parents, a mere 1 million, and you will pay it back with interest. I looked at Ji Chen leisurely. Ji Chen's nails dug deep into his flesh, and his whole body was shaking with guilt, faced with Qin Zhenzhen's naive words. He had to raise a pale smile. Ding dong. Ji Chen's mobile phone received a message. At just one glance, Ji Chen looked at me angrily as if he had eaten a dead mosquito. You actually stopped the secondary card. I looked at him. Don't you have money as long as you admit your mistake to your family? Are you afraid that I will suspend your card? Ji Chen was speechless after being confronted by me. Qin Zhenzhen took Ji Chen's hand, glanced at the luxury goods under my feet, and shook the things in her hand in front of Ji Chen. Meng Sui Sui, stop being arrogant. Ji Chen has money. This bag was just bought with Ji Chen's card. Other sisters showed their shopping bags one after another. All of them were big brands. My secondary card had been suspended for a long time, so these could only be paid from Ji Chen's card. Ji Chen opened his mobile phone and looked at his almost empty savings. His face was very long. I showed the latest model. This bag may not even be available in stock. Qin Zhenzhen felt the provocation in my words and acted coquettishly towards Ji Chen. Ji Chen, I like that bag too. What's the use of liking it? Ji Chen shouted, and after knowing that he had lost his composure, he gently comforted him. Let's go. We'll talk about the bag tomorrow. Qin Zhenzhen wanted to insist, but was frightened by Ji Chen's terrible face. Jiang Shui and I finished our meal and just walked out of the restaurant. I received a call. It was not unfamiliar. It was from Qin Zhenzhen's sister, Qin Yuan, Meng Sui. What's the matter? The doctor just said that there is no money in my account. Does brother Ji Chen know that you do things like this? You even forgot to pay for my hospitalization. I smiled slightly. I forgot to tell you that I have broken up with Ji Chen. What? How can you break up with brother Ji Chen? A sharp voice came into my ears. I pretended to mention it casually. Your sister borrowed 1 million from me. 800,000 is enough for the operation. Didn't you leave the remaining 200,000 for you to pay for the hospitalization? Qin Yuan didn't continue talking. In the previous life, Qin Zhenzhen said that she was raising money for her sister, but she actually took the money to pretend to be a rich lady. This Qin Yuan is not someone to be trifled with. There will be a good show soon. During this period, Ji Chen called me several times again, and I pretended not to see it. Jiang Shui said carefully, Sui, have you really let go of Ji Chen? I nodded. I had a dream. I dreamed that Ji Chen was a bastard white-eyed wolf. No matter how I covered him, he couldn't get warm. I gave up. Recalling the hateful look in Ji Chen's eyes before his death in the previous life, my heart ached. I gave without regrets, but in return I was killed by him. Fortunately, I have been reborn and everything can start over again. Jiang Shui saw that I was in a bad mood and dragged me to the bar. I didn't return to the community until the early morning. At the door of my house, I saw Ji Chen. As soon as he saw me, Ji Chen pointed at me angrily. You have money to go out and spend money. Why can't you pay Yuan's hospital bills? Meng Sui, as a woman, how can you be so shameless and vicious? That's a living life. Ji Chen looked heartbroken. But I laughed out of anger. Ji Chen, if you are sick, go and get treatment. We have broken up a long time ago. Ji Chen was stunned, with a moment of confusion in his eyes, because I never thought that I, who was devoted to him, would actually take that breakup seriously. After all, I always wronged myself in the past in exchange for him to look at me. I didn't want to say anything, and raised my foot to go in with Jiang Shui. Ji Chen chased after him, and Jiang Shui got angry and raised her hand to slap Ji Chen. Are you still a man? Sui has already said breakup. Do you understand what people say? As noble as Ji Chen is, how could he bear such an insult? He actually raised his hand to hit Jiang Shui. I was furious, pushed his arm away, and slapped him. If you dare to do it again, I will call the police. Ji Chen looked at my anger and didn't look fake, and withdrew his hand angrily. I don't know when Qin Zhenzhen came out. She pulled Ji Chen and looked at me with resentment. Meng Sui, don't you just hate me being with Ji Chen? Okay, I agree to your conditions. Let's go abroad, even if I'm unfamiliar with the place and the people, even if my CET4 is not good enough to communicate. As long as you don't continue to torture Ji Chen, I can never come back. Jiang Shui and I were stunned. We came to the same conclusion. Psychopath. Faced with Qin Zhenzhen's pretended righteousness, Ji Chen was moved to tears. Zhenzhen, you don't have to be like this. I will never bow to her even if I die. I'll find a way to pay for your sister's hospitalization, even if it means taking out a loan to sell the house. I will help you. The two hugged each other tightly. I found it funny. In my last life, I was cheated of 100,000 by a fraudulent company, and he only left me with a sentence that I deserved it. And now facing Qin Zhenzhen's lies, he is willing to take out a loan to sell the house. I was so cheap in my last life. Ji Chen wiped away his tears. Meng Sui, don't regret it. My patience with them had reached its limit, so I called the security guard and drove them both out. I brought Ji Chen to this house before, and he could find it easily. I called my parents and agreed to go abroad. My parents were overjoyed and said yes again and again. I didn't go to school these days, but started to prepare to go abroad, until Jiang Shui called me. Sui Sui, look at the video I sent you. I turned on my phone. The first thing I saw was me throwing a vase at Qin Zhenzhen, the dormitory, the Western restaurant, and the video of Jiyu Chen making a scene at the door of my room. They were all maliciously edited, and only Jiang Shui and I slapped Jiyu Chen fiercely. Countless people commented below, "It's great to be rich. I suggest that the 3 generations above be investigated strictly. They are so uncultured, and the money earned by their parents must not be clean. What's the difference between this behavior and a mistress, using the school's overseas quota as a bargaining chip? Whoever goes to the same school with these 2 ancestors will be unlucky. It's so funny. It seems that the school is owned by her family. Amniotic fluid is the watershed of life. I wish you a baby without dermatitis. How can there be such a disgusting person? The following is full of abuse." They first posted it on the school forum, and then incited students to forward it to the internet. Now we are famous, and many netizens are asking me to apologize. I don't dare to go out now. There are netizens everywhere shouting that they want to beat us up, Jiang Shui said with a guilty conscience. Also, I thought you were preparing to go abroad, so I went to find Qin Zhenzhen when it was first posted. I didn't expect her to play dirty, maliciously edited it, and misled netizens. I finished watching the clarification video sent by Jiang Shui. In the camera, Qin Zhenzhen was crying, but pretending to be patient. I am here to clarify the incident of Meng Suisui and Jiang Shui beat people to force the emperor to take over. Meng Suisui was able to do the behavior in the video because she loved Jiyu Chen too much. I can't afford to love Jiyu Chen. If my sister interrupts the treatment, she will die. I have no other choice. Studying abroad is over. Meng Suisui is a rich lady who is close to the director and is willing to give the student 200,000 yuan. Thank you for the support of netizens. I am too cowardly and can't afford to waste time with them. After the whole live broadcast, it was not a clarification at all, but a naked smear. But netizens nowadays believe everything they hear. Coupled with Jiang Shui's threatening phone call, it caused an uproar on the internet. But I am not a pushover. I called the police immediately. They have their own schemes, don't I? I have recorded the school dormitory in advance, and there are surveillance cameras in the Western restaurant and at the door of my house. I don't understand how Qin Zhenzhen can be so stupid. It was not until Jiyu Chen called me that I understood why she was so arrogant. Meng Suisui, Qin Zhenzhen posted those videos on the internet, and they were facts. You don't have to make a fuss and call the police. This is the first sentence that Jiyu Chen said. I find it funny. How dare you say these things to me? Jiyu Chen's tone was choked, and he spoke again with an aloofness that could not be slandered. Don't be too pushy. Which of the things you did, breaking Zhenzhen's lamp or slapping me, did you wrongly accuse you? If you really want to make a scene, you won't be much better off. You were only scolded by netizens. But what about Zhenzhen? She actually had the courage to post the video online. Do you know how scared she was? I laughed angrily. So, because you like her, I should be the one who suffers from rumors. Jiyu Chen, don't think too highly of yourself. I won't give in to rumors. Let the police handle everything. Jiyu Chen was so angry that he said, "Okay, Meng Suisui, if you insist on calling the police, I will go live to help Zhenzhen spread rumors about you." I sneered. I couldn't ask for more. I hung up the phone, looking at the audience in the live broadcast room, faced with this unexpected reversal. The comment area was dead silent, and then it exploded. Knock, you cheated on my feelings. It turned out to be a story of Phoenix Man and Gold Digger. Sister, 1 million. I will work like a cow for you. It's so disgusting. Completely reversing right and wrong. Girl, don't be soft-hearted. Call the police no matter how much you love. When Jiyu Chen called, I started the live broadcast. While chatting, I uploaded the real surveillance. And Jiyu Chen's call just now confirmed the fact that Meng Suisui maliciously edited it. In the evening, Qin Zhenzhen and Jiyu Chen came to the door. Qin Zhenzhen raised her hand and wanted to slap me. I pinched her wrist. Meng Suisui, quickly remove the video you sent out. Jiyu Chen also echoed. You are so despicable. You actually started a live broadcast to plot against me. I didn't expect you to be such a person. I called the property management. But Qin Zhenzhen snatched the phone away and threw it heavily to the ground. Don't you like Jiyu Chen? Why do you treat me like this? I sneered. You were the first to spread rumors about me, and I had already broken up with Jiyu Chen. So why didn't you understand, Qin Zhenzhen? Do you really want that place to go abroad? You made all this trouble because you think I don't like Jiyu Chen that much, so you started to force me to give you the place. Qin Zhenzhen paused and retorted loudly. How is it possible? Don't try to sow discord, Jiyu Chen. Don't listen to him. I took out the photos of Qin Zhenzhen going in and out of various bars, and the 200,000 yuan that was less than her sister, Jiyu Chen. Qin Zhenzhen has been using you. Do you think she likes you? No. She just uses you as an ATM machine. Qin Zhenzhen pretended to be innocent, but she actually went to various bars and did not return home until the early morning. Every time she gave Jiyu Chen an excuse, she was working. Qin Zhenzhen snatched Jiyu Chen's phone, and after seeing the photos, her whole body was trembling with fear, unrepentant quibbling. Jiyu Chen, believe me, I have only you from beginning to end, and I have no bad relationship with anyone. This is a composite photo of Meng Sui. It has nothing to do with me. Jiyu Chen stared at the scantily clad woman in the photo and did not speak. In fact, he could distinguish between the composite and the real person, but he was still unwilling to believe it. Then I can only help him again. I took out the flight information Qin Zhenzhen booked and the photos of the application materials for studying abroad in the agency and sent them to Jiyu Chen. The flight is set for the departure date of the school, and the materials are for personal application. Qin Zhenzhen made 2 preparations. The money was borrowed online with your ID card. It is recommended to check the amount. Jiang Shui was tricked by Qin Zhenzhen and swore revenge. She asked someone to follow Qin Zhenzhen, but she didn't expect to find a great secret. These photos were given to me by her. Jiyu Chen looked at the photos and carefully checked the information. Now Jiyu Chen had to believe it. His eyes were red and he looked at Qin Zhenzhen in disbelief. Didn't you say that I should take a photo with my ID card as a souvenir? How much did I borrow? Why did you do this to me? Qin Zhenzhen took a step back in fear, still quibbling. She spread the rumor. Don't believe her. But now Jiyu Chen's face was scary. Qin Zhenzhen shrank and stammered. 1 million. Her eyes were blurred with tears, and she leaned against Jiyu Chen tenderly. Imagine that like before. Jiyu Chen hugged her in his arms with heartache, no longer angry. But this time the plot did not develop as she imagined. Pa, Qin Zhenzhen was slapped hard on the face. She looked at Jiyu Chen in disbelief, and murmured, Jiyu Chen, you actually hit me. Jiyu Chen used to treat Qin Zhenzhen as a treasure in his palm, and he would not even scold her loudly. But this time he actually hit her. Jiyu Chen's eyes were red. Are you crazy? Dare to borrow 1 million online? Qin Zhenzhen covered her injured face and said indifferently, it's just 1 million. Don't be angry with your family. Go back and inherit the family property. This small amount of money can be solved in minutes. I will take the money to go abroad first, and you will follow later. Isn't it better for us to live abroad? Qin Zhenzhen tried to persuade him slowly and kindly. But Jiyu Chen was indifferent. Qin Zhenzhen said a few more words about the future she envisioned. Seeing that Jiyu Chen remained silent, she could not help herself. Jiyu Chen, do you have to be so petty? I have been with you for so long, and it is not even worth 1 million, she said while beating him and crying. I don't have any money at all. Jiyu Chen finally roared in unbearable anger. I lied to you. I don't have any money at all. Are you satisfied? Qin Zhenzhen widened her eyes and could not believe it at all. What did you say? Jiyu Chen wiped away the tears from the corners of his eyes and threw the jar to the ground. I don't have any money. And it was all lies that I was angry with my family. Qin Zhenzhen staggered back in fear. It's impossible. How could you lie to me? Jiyu Chen grabbed Qin Zhenzhen's shoulders. How much money is left? Pay it back quickly. Qin Zhenzhen turned around and tried to run away in fear, but Jiyu Chen grabbed her neck. How much is left? Qin Zhenzhen was so scared that she burst into tears, was strangled to the point of being unable to breathe, and dared not to tell the truth at all. only struggling to ask me for help, save me. But I am not a saint. The pain I suffered in my last life, Qin Zhenzhen should suffer it too. Seeing Qin Zhenzhen's disordered breathing and eyes rolling back, the police came. Don't move. Jiyu Chen was subdued and taken to prison with Qin Zhenzhen. As early as when the two came to my door, I called the police. I was afraid that they would do something extreme. Qin Zhenzhen had solid evidence to slander me. So she was detained and just waiting for the trial. She happily accepted this, because if she was not detained, she might be strangled to death by Jiyu Chen. Jiyu Chen sued Qin Zhenzhen, but found that the 1 million had been spent long ago, since I stopped Jiyu Chen's card. Jiyu Chen's savings were quickly squandered by Qin Zhenzhen and those sisters. It is difficult to go from luxury to simplicity. Qin Zhenzhen was used to a luxurious life, and it was impossible for her to live an ordinary life steadily. So she boldly used Jiyu Chen's ID card to borrow money online. She was also ready to flee abroad at any time. Qin Zhenzhen was sued for having no money. In order to spend less time in jail, she found the sisters who used to eat and drink behind her. Sister Zhen, those things you said you would treat us. How can you give them back? We helped you bully Meng Sui for so long. How can you take these things back? We have no money. The money was borrowed by you, not us. Those people shirked responsibility. Qin Zhenzhen was also a ruthless person, suing everyone who spent her money. Those people didn't want to go to jail, so they tried their best to raise money. The last one, Qin Zhenzhen set her sights on Qin Yuanyuan. Don't stay in the hospital. Give me the 200,000 yuan. Qin Yuanyuan would of course ignore her and blocked her, but Jiyu Chen was not happy. Cherish me. When Jiyu Chen found me, I was having dinner with Jiang Shui in a shopping mall. But after not seeing each other for a few days, Jiyu Chen looked much more haggard, and his originally handsome face was stained with depression. Sui, I give up. He seemed to have given up all resistance. I promise to be with you, even marry you, but I have 2 conditions. First, you help me pay off the 500,000 online loan, and the previous 1 million is also a purchase and sale. Second, agree to sign Qin Zhenzhen's letter of understanding and give her a chance. Third, I don't love you. And I won't touch you if I marry you. You can do IVF after marriage. I laughed angrily. Jiyu Chen, don't think too highly of yourself. We broke up a long time ago. Don't bother me anymore. Jiyu Chen's face was pale. Don't you like me anymore? I called the waiter and pulled Jiyu Chen away. Only 1 sentence was left. I want to kill you. How can I like you? Jiyu Chen looked depressed, completely out of strength, and was easily pulled away by the waiter. Qin Zhenzhen was sentenced to 10 years in prison for multiple crimes, and Jiyu Chen didn't give up looking for me. But I went abroad soon. I traveled around the world and lived a carefree life every day. 10 years later, I experienced primitive life on the African savannah. During the call with Jiang Shui, I learned that Jiyu Chen was oppressed by online loans and became a male model. In the end, he got a dirty disease because of his promiscuous life, seeing that he was tortured by illness. He stabbed someone to death on the way back to his hometown after Qin Zhenzhen was released from prison. I didn't continue to pay attention to the 2 people's affairs. Cherish every day of your life.